What's happening, y'all? Happy Tuesday evening. It's 9:32. It's time to go live with Johnny Gaz. How are you guys doing today? Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone is feeling good. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend, enjoyed their Sunday. Hope you had a good Monday and a fantastic Tuesday, but it is now past 9:30. It's time to talk Lions football. Welcome to Johnny Gaz Live. Thank you for returning. For those who have been here before, welcome back. For any first-timers here, I appreciate you guys. Welcome to Johnny Gaz Sports and Johnny Gaz Live. We're Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we are always talking Lions football with you. We have a ton of great topics on the docket today. Of course, we're talking Lions Commanders and the Week 10 victory, 44-22. Lions dominating D.C. We're going to dive into that. Head coach Dan Campbell has taken over the offensive play calling. We're going to go heavy into that today. Has he saved this Lions offense? Has he saved the Lions season? So much to get into with that topic. We got some roster moves and some roster questions for you. And then, of course, we have the tremendously large matchup in Week 11 with the Philadelphia Eagles. Lions heading to the town of brotherly love for what could be a number one seed deciding showdown midway through the season with the Eagles. A fantastic Week 11 showdown between two great teams. We're going to dive into that today as well. It's going to be a great night talking Lions football. More than anything, how are you guys doing? Let me know in the chat. Say hello. Let me know where you're coming from today. Let's get you guys involved early and often. I appreciate you all. Jody, Attila, Mile Marker. I saw your guys' comments before the stream even started. Trim, how you doing, buddy? Do you know what happens to people who watch Johnny Gaz Sports and don't hit the like and subscribe buttons? Do you? Let's not find out. But thank you, Trim. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all of you. Make sure to slap that like button. Share it with your friends and family. Let's get everyone involved so we can talk this fantastic season of Lions football. Let's dive into it. What a stacked week. What a stacked lineup we have tonight, guys. It's going to be so many topics to cover here in the next hour and some change. I can't wait to spend it with you as I do every Tuesday starting at 9:30. How are you all doing? What's up, Attila? Jody was here early. I appreciate that, Jody. Thank you so much. You can be here as early as you want, stay as late as you want. I appreciate you every time. Millicent, how you doing? Hello, everyone. Good to see you guys. Appreciate you. Always liked and subscribed, Attila. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Again, this channel is made possible because of you guys. I love talking Lions football. I love just shooting it with you every single week. I shoot it to you straight, hopefully concise and reliable information you can come back to Johnny Gaz Sports for every single day. I've had shorts coming out every day this week. We'll have more coming up. I have a very fun top 3 topic and a short coming out tomorrow morning, so definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm kind of changing the way the top 3 works, so we're going to go top 3 plays from Week 10. We're going to talk about all that today, but I will have a short that will actually show you those highlights tomorrow morning, so be on the lookout for that. So before we get started today, I do have a question for chat, and I appreciate you guys getting involved early. But the big question to start off today is, where were you when you realized Dan Campbell was calling plays on Sunday? There we go. What I'm going to try to do is actually post the question in chat so that you can kind of see where we're markered. I kind of realized now as we're doing these lives and I go back and watch them, I'd love to have the question actually stamped in chat so people can see it and react to it and kind of become a better flow for all you guys who are following along and are getting involved. So I appreciate that. So the question to start today is, where were you when you realized MCDC was calling plays on Sunday? Because that was not stated up front the entire week of practice. That was not something they came out and told the media. And I don't know exactly when that decision was made. Now, my assumption, just from me being a fan and watching this team every single week, every single day, is that following the previous matchup when the Lions lost to Minnesota, and I think with the offensive performance that they had put out in week 9, I really believe that was the catalyst for Dan Campbell saying, I'm going to take this thing over. And we're going to dive headfirst into that topic today. So where were you on Sunday when you realized Dan Campbell was calling plays? Attila says, as soon as I saw the glasses and I saw him looking down. That's a great point. And that was a huge signifier that something funny was going on Sunday. Dan Campbell typically doesn't wear the spectacles, which I appreciate. I'm a glasses wearer. And although, yes, I have contacts, I do wear them when I have to, I much prefer the glasses. So yes, Attila, that was a huge sign that something had changed. That along with the huge play call sheet, of course. Milton says, I knew as soon as I saw the readers he was wearing. Exactly, that's it. First moment I saw him on the sidelines before the game started on Sunday. Glasses, play card, all dead giveaways, according to Jody. Exactly. MCDC alluded to it in his press conference, says Millicent. Was that afterwards or prior to the game, are you saying, Millicent? Let's talk about why Dan Campbell did it and why it worked. Now, everything we're going to talk about here, we have to take with a small grain of salt because the Week 10 victory came against the Washington Commanders, a team with a bottom 10 defense and a team that seemed to almost quit towards the end of the game. But the Lions took advantage of that 100 times over. So you have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But the truth is, we saw what this Lions offense had been through the 9 weeks. And I think we saw some flashes of what we saw in the previous season. I think there were some flashes of that run game that we wanted to see consistently. You know, you go back to that Week 5 victory against the Ravens and how Monty and Jahmyr Gibbs looked in that matchup. And you kind of thought coming out of that, okay, there's this Lions offense. But then several weeks fell on top of each other where this offense kind of seemed to stall out at times. And the run game and the offensive line, the protection issues came into play. And that just sort of came to a crescendo, I think, coming off the bye in Week 9 against Minnesota. Attila says, as soon as I didn't see screen passes behind the line of scrimmage for losses. Good point. We're going to hit on that. We're going to hit on actual schematic changes that we saw. Jody says, because Jay Morton stinks, no chemistry with the offense, and Dan knows this offense like no other. Millicent says, absolutely, Attila. The absence of screenplays was a huge tell. Yeah, they certainly used talent a little bit differently on Sunday. But I just thought the offense just didn't have the necessary rhythm it wanted through 9 weeks. It seemed like sometimes the plays were coming in a little bit slower, which causes some communication issues. Of course, across the offensive line, timeout mismanagement seemed to be a thing. There was like a lack of aggression or grit in some moments where in the past this Lions team would be more aggressive in the type of play calling or using the play action in moments. So I thought Dan Campbell decided to take over to simplify this operation, to better use the talent that he knows so well on this roster as part of this offense. And I came out with a short just this morning going over why this offense looks so much better with Dan Campbell calling the plays. And I think it's really because this offense is now, with him calling the plays, a reflection of himself. Aggression, speed, efficiency. You know, he sped up the offense. He reconnected the offense to its true identity. Yes, the protection was better. The offensive line was better. And that's what has to happen for this Lions offense to be better. And again, you're going against the Washington Commanders team that I don't know was up for that sort of fight. So the Lions certainly had a leg up there and were able to take advantage of a bottom 10 defense. The offensive line was able to establish the line of scrimmage, get an extra push, and that changed the whole game. That opens up the play action. It gives Jared Goff a lot of confidence. That sped up offense allows more time for Jared Goff, the freedom to run it with his confidence. And that creates a more efficient quarterback. And ultimately, the whole offense works with that rhythm that we hadn't seen for 9 weeks. Well, in week 10, you saw that rhythm. Millicent says the personnel on the field was a huge tell too. Yeah, I mean, I thought we saw much more Jahmyr Gibbs, much more Jamison Williams, saw a lot of Khalif Raymond. I mean, you saw guys that Dan Campbell trusts. Khalif Raymond is one of those guys, the Iron Man, I think he's referred to on this roster. And he got a ton of looks on Sunday because Dan Campbell trusts him. He likes his speed. He likes the dynamic aspect he brings to the offense in certain small doses. And speed's a big part of that. So, yeah, the personnel usage was a lot different, Dan Campbell, compared to Johnny Morton. That was a huge tell. And, guys, the tape just doesn't lie. So as much as I can tell you that, yes, Washington was a down team, a down defense, and Lions took advantage of it, this was a new offense. I mean, you saw the differences. Faster tempo. Dan Campbell, after the game, come out, and a lot of the players solidified this, that the verbiage was simplified. The communication was a lot easier. Decisive sequencing, rhythm, play action, returning a lot more efficiently. And Goff is able to get into his rhythm and distribute the football to the weapons that will take this team to where they want to go. Jared Goff, 25 of 33, 320 yards, 3 touchdowns, 75.8% completion percentage on the day. I mean, it was a masterclass. And again, it's all because of what happens up front. That protection, the running game, it just flows. And Dan Campbell was able to reinvigorate that in week 10. Attila says, I think J-Mo and the offensive line lost trust in Morton and played with more energy and focus with MCDC. Let's get these comments on screen, guys. There you go. Let's do that. Let's leave it like that today. Let's try that look. We're still messing with some things on the live to bring the best aspect for all of you. And we're going to keep the comments over here on the shelf, so be on the lookout for that. But I appreciate you guys so much. Milson says, seeing Khalif utilized was amazing. Yeah, that's little things like that. You know, Johnny Morton, who, again, has familiarity with this team, but not necessarily all of the pieces individually. And I think because Dan Campbell has that connection, probably the best connection as far as head coach to the roster than any other coach in the NFL, he's able to dig out those pieces when necessary. So a guy like Khalif Raymond, who he has a ton of faith in, you got a lot more usage out of him on Sunday, and it was effective. It was a great day of football to see variety and consistency, says Austin. How you doing, Austin? Thanks for getting involved. Great comment. Absolutely, I agree with you. And I hate to keep focusing back in on the offensive line, guys, but truthfully, that is what makes or breaks this Lions offense. I mean, Dan Campbell is going to put the pieces in place, but the offensive line has to be consistent and effective like they were on Sunday for this Lions offense to be as good as it can be. You know, they limited the mental mistakes. No free rushers were allowed. They didn't give up a sack on the day. They were dominant. They opened up rushing lanes all night long. Elite in space. They handled Washington's any kind of stunt they did or any kind of blitz. They were not physically overwhelmed whatsoever. And truthfully, they still have, even with the depth now and without Mahogany, I thought Coyote Owasika filled in well. You saw more Dan Skipper in places. You saw more motion pre-snap. I think things that the offensive line are used to, helping out the offensive line with that motion, with Jared Goff getting the ball out a little quicker. Those are all things that help the cause. So my next question for you guys in chat, who was your offensive MVP on Sunday for the Lions against the Commanders? I think there's a couple of them. I think there's probably one obvious one. But I think because they were able to spread the wealth, I think you certainly have some options. So I'd love to know from your perspective. Let me know in the chat, who was your Week 10 MVP, Lions and Commanders? Hit me up in the chat. Gibbs. There you go. Austin, Theo, how you doing, man? Attila, Gibbs, and J-Mo. Yeah, it's hard to look past Jahmyr Gibbs in this matchup. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is good enough to be offensive player of the year. If the Lions focused enough attention with him and only focused him getting the ball, I mean, he could truly compete for not only offensive player of the year, but maybe more. I mean, we're seeing Jonathan Taylor with the Colts. We saw Saquon Barkley last year with the Eagles. These guys, running back, sort of shifting themselves back into the conversation of possible MVPs. Now, the MVP is not a running back award. It's typically a quarterback award for the best team. It's just the way it always has been. And it's a little bit of political, so it is what it is. And that doesn't matter. But the truth is, Gibbs has that ability. And in the Dan Campbell offense, you saw that speed and more opportunities and putting him in the right situations, not lining him up in situations where he's going to have to block or take on a literal running blitzer multiple times over. And again, you don't want to focus necessarily on that, but it's a small sample size example of the difference in usage of this roster. Goff and J-Mo, Goff and Gibbs on offense. Millicent says, absolutely. J-Mo, a big day. Big day for J-Mo. Let's get back into Gibbs real quick. I think it's important. Gibbs, 15 carries, 2 touchdowns, had the receiving touchdown as well. 15 carries, 142 yards on the day. You know, and it was just truly game changer. And he can be that every single week if he's healthy. Jameson Williams, 6 catches, 119 yards and a touchdown. Heavily involved in this matchup. Effective usage. Route tree looked good. Dan Campbell, again, going back to bread and butter type routes. Things that if the defense isn't going to stop them, you're not afraid to go back to them. I think that was another difference in Dan Campbell offense versus Johnny Mo. And that got Jameson Williams more touches. More speed on the field, more effectiveness, got in the end zone. Campbell and Lopez on defense. Yeah, it's okay. You can give the defensive MVP. There's nothing wrong with that. Lopez played a great game. And we're going to talk about the defensive line, specifically the defensive tackles here in just a moment. Mile marker, I agree. Coyote Osika filled in well. He is a guy that has a ton of experience. Even though he hasn't played a lot, let's say last season. But remember back in 2023, Coyote Osika was the starting guard in the NFC Championship game. So he's played in meaningful snaps. Raymond really stepped up in J-Mo, just not enough to surpass Gibbs as MVP. I agree, Austin. Attila says, Branch on defense, loves seeing sacks out of our linebackers and safety positions. Yeah, and I'm going to talk about, we can kind of get into this now, is how is the defense affected by the way the offense plays? Because they go hand in hand, guys. Truthfully, if the offense, not only with time of possession, but flipping the field position, extending drives, you know, not turning the ball over, not giving the ball back on 3 and outs. I mean, when your offense stays on the field, is efficient and does those things, it really helps your defense. The defense is able to establish a rhythm. And obviously, when you get a lead like you do, it forces the opponent to pass the football in obvious passing downs, which allows you to blitz and use your defensive line in different ways. And obviously, Branch benefited from that. What's up, Scott? How you doing? He says, they look good. Hopefully they can do it again and stay consistent. And that's it, Scott. You hit it on the head. Consistency. And I think that's what Dan Campbell wants to get back to. Offensive consistency and then obviously overall consistency for what this Lions team really is and what they can be. Johnny Gaz, I'm heavily drinking. Wish I said something casual. Jay Cruisin, cheers, my brother. I love it. I love it. You just stay in chat, my man. You stay involved. That's all we care about. You don't have to say anything of substance, you just stay involved. I appreciate you. What up, Robert? How you doing, man? He says, yo, sorry I'm late, bro. DC said he let BJ watch and learn and is doing the same with Morton. He's an offensive genius and is building his own tree. I'm not driving. I'm on shotgun. That's good, Jay Cruiser. That's good. We don't drink and drive. It's positive. We stay safe. I appreciate that, man. Always designate a different a driver. Appreciate you, buddy. But, Robert, that's a huge topic we're going to hit on today. The fate of Johnny Morton. The fate of Johnny Morton. Love you too, J. Crew. But before we talk about Johnny Morton's fate, because that's a huge topic, that's a lot to get into. We're talking about J-Mo, but I think another key aspect of the Dan Campbell offense versus Johnny Mo, the usage of the talent, and you saw more of effectiveness from David Montgomery, the other running back. Without Sonic, you have to have the knuckles, right? Well, you got a little more knuckles. Now, he wasn't as involved as Jahmyr Gibbs, but David Montgomery also had 15 carries, which matches the amount of carries that Jahmyr had. 71 yards, a 4.7-yard average, but a good effective day and a good change of pace, which is what this offense has really been based off of in the past. So it was good to see the two-headed monster return. Talked about J-Mo. Laporta, again, a little less effective. But when you have so many weapons and you have to spread the ball, it just wasn't Laporta's day. He will be back, I'm sure. Laporta's been kind of that chain mover, that security blanket. I've called him many, many times for Jared Goff this season. I think he'll be back. 9114 Fish. Hey, Mr. Gaz, I enjoy your program. I enjoy that comment. Thank you so much. I don't know if I've seen you in here, 9114, so I appreciate you coming and being involved. And I appreciate that comment. Thank you so much. Welcome. Welcome. But one of the big topics stemming away from what happened in Washington and with Dan Campbell taking over the offense is really what is now the fate of offensive coordinator Johnny Morton. The comment here from Robert was DC said that he let BJ watch and learn, and he's doing the same with Johnny Morton. He's an offensive genius and is building his own tree. So maybe number one, we save this. Dan Campbell is not getting enough credit for his true offensive mind. I think when he came into the Detroit Lions job, and obviously with the press conference that he held with the biting kneecaps and his overall stature, the way he speaks, the way the media portrays him, it's sort of like this meathead mentality, but that's not really Dan Campbell. That's part of who he is, but really he's a smart guy, great football mind, great offensive mind. And remember, he stems from the Sean Payton tree all the way back in the New Orleans days where he had a lot of involvement in that offense and was able to learn. So I don't know if Dan Campbell gets a lot of credit there. So when you say, as far as establishing his own tree of coaches, I think you're correct. And Ben Johnson now being one of them. But the question now here is, what is the ultimate fate of Johnny Morton? And I'm going to ask you guys that in chat. Let me know. What is the ultimate fate of offensive coordinator Johnny Morton? Let me know in the chat. Because here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. The Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell connection is much different than Dan Campbell and Johnny Morton. Now, they go back farther. That relationship between Dan Campbell and Johnny Morton, they are friends, at least from what they say. But it is rare that in the middle of a season, especially for a team that's competing like the Lions are for an NFC North title and a potential number one seed, obviously looking to get back into the playoffs and get to a Super Bowl, it's rare that a coach strips the coordinator, one of their coordinators, of their play calling duties mid-season. And then to think that they're ultimately working it back to give it back to that coordinator, I think is even more of a stretch. So the Lions organization, Dan Campbell, they're all saying the right things coming out of what happened here. And I think they have to do that because they're not going to fire John Morton right now. I don't know if that's really what they want to do. That certainly was not the plan at the beginning of the season. They wanted this all to flourish, but it's very rare that when you replace both coordinators that both are going to work out. I think we all feel confident in what Kelvin Shepherd is doing, but through 9 weeks, we could very confidently say that we were not as excited about the way the offense was going. And when the Lions, with this Super Bowl window being open, I think Dan Campbell, although he wouldn't say it like that, knows where this team is at, and this team cannot afford this offense to continue to stall. They're in a win now mode, and Dan Campbell is taking this over with that approach. So I think I'm going to deem it as what they're saying is a soft firing, where they will allow him, out of respect for Johnny Morton, they're not going to fire him midseason. They're not going to just allow him to walk out the door. I think he's a professional enough to want to stay involved. I think him and Dan Campbell will work well enough together to be able to install weekly offensive game plans and certain pass plays and be the pass game coordinator. And Johnny Mo will still be involved in all that. But ultimately, I think this is now Dan Campbell's offense. And I think he always had somewhat of a finger on it, but now it's his and his final decision. And although the install will still be a group decision, the day of play calling will now be all on Dan Campbell. And it's proof in the pudding that he knows this roster better than anybody else. And right now, the best solution is for Dan Campbell to be the play caller. I don't see Johnny Morton having a future with the Lions. I don't see him being able to come back as the play caller. Maybe there's a world out there where he takes a lesser role, but I think that's rare. And ultimately, if I'm guessing, what will happen is they'll play out the end of the season. Hopefully all goes well. And after the Lions win a Super Bowl, he will walk off into the sun. And the Lions will hire in or promote somebody as a new offensive coordinator. But remember, a lot of good teams and their head coaches are play callers. You know, Andy Reid in Kansas City, a good example of that. And although they've had good offensive coordinators, I think Andy Reid is still the ultimate decision maker as far as offensive play calling. So it's not unheard of, and it's not like Dan Campbell can't take on this role or that it would take him away from other responsibilities. So I think that's ultimately what we see here. So for me, the future of Johnny Morton is not with the Detroit Lions. And as much as I hope that he'll want to stay involved and that him and Dan Campbell will work through this to make it the best situation for the Lions each week moving forward, I really believe at the end of the season, he will truly be let go. So you still have the title, but we're changing what you do, pretty much is what the Lions are saying to Johnny Morton. Millicent says, Johnny Mo's not going anywhere. He will continue to have a role. What that title will be, I'm not sure. What's up, Tussman? Says, no reason to let Morton go. He's still the OC and Campbell's kind of busy. I agree. But again, if they fire him or let him go, it creates a whole different story, a whole different narrative. The outside perspective changes a lot, and I think that affects what a lot of people are doing even internally. So that's not going to happen. They're not going to fire him now. This will be after the end of the season. I agree with you, Attila. Title change and maybe leave in the offseason. I agree. 9114 says, I think he worked well with Johnson and saw his thoughts portrayed with the old offensive coordinator. We are family. I got all my Lions fam with me. Oh, Jody, I shouldn't have sang that for you. That probably ruined it. Jody, I appreciate you being here. Sorry, I just ruined it for you. What up, Robert? Says, Morton's fate is totally dependent on how he responds to this. If he adapts and changes, he'll be the next Ben Johnson. Just my opinion. Robert, I think you're right. His response to this will determine his fate long term. If he wants to stay involved or he wants to take a lesser role, I think the Lions would make one for him, but I don't know what he'll want to do. But I'm with you. Theodore says, it may depend on Morton being willing to accept a reassignment. That's it. Attila says, MCDC calls plays now up to the Super Bowl, then revisit in the offseason. Yeah, I'm with you there. Millicent says, MCDC is such a class act. He throws no one under the bus. Yeah, they're not going to do that. And him and Morton go way back. They have a relationship. Morton was here years ago helping install the original offense. So I just think they just wouldn't do him that way. But you're right, Robert. I don't think he's ever going to be our OC again. What up, Villain? How you doing, buddy? Villain in the house, 313 Villain Squad. Make sure to check 313 Villain Squad out on Facebook, also on YouTube. Thank you so much for allowing me to use your platform and get all of your friends and family involved here with us. I appreciate it. How you doing, my man? Thanks, Jody. I didn't ruin it for you. I'm not a good singer. I'm a shower singer, and I'm not good at that, but I try, you know? So, yeah, I think that's ultimately the fate of Johnny Mo, and I think we all wanted it to work. I myself going into the season, I thought he had the hardest task, Johnny Morton, in a sense of what this offense was under Ben Johnson, what it had become, the historical, statistical, and analytical offense this was last year. It was almost impossible to live up to that in 2025-26. There's no way Johnny Morton could have taken this team to new heights offensively. So there was going to be a step back. There had to be. But the question was, how big of a step back would it be, and when would it come, and could the Lions recover? Could they shift? Could Johnny Morton pivot? And I think part of the reason why he's no longer going to call plays for the Lions is because he couldn't adjust or pivot in a quick sense. And I really think that hurt him. What's up, Ken? He says, I'm waiting for us to put Gibbs and Monty in the backfield at the same time, especially on critical third and fourth down plays. We heard a lot of that actually out of Johnny Mo as the season sort of built up, and it just didn't really happen a lot. I agree with you. I'd like to see that a little bit more. We may see that with Motor City Dan Campbell now at the helm. Yeah, Dan Campbell, again, it's about having the pulse of your roster, understanding the sequencing of drives, things you've done earlier in the game, going back to those concepts, adjusting that concept just a little bit to fool the defense. What you're doing on second downs is just as important as what you're doing on first downs. So I just thought he was better in those sequencing and rhythm type plays. Gibbs. Theo says, it was great watching the quicker timing passing routes, utilizing touches for all. Yeah, that and in those crossing routes. I mean, the ability, like J-Mo hit on several crossing routes or digs or ins. There's a couple different ways to refer to it, you know, but Dan Campbell wasn't afraid to go back to those routes that were working. And on the Gibbs touchdown, or on the Williams touchdown, the J-Mo touchdown, he got reflipped in. That was just a recall play to what had happened a couple series before. So, yeah, it was great. Robert Murphy says there were rumors Morton clashed with players in Denver and was too stubborn to change. You know what, Robert? I actually also heard that as far as his time with the New York Jets, that he clashed with not only players there, but coaches and management. And I think, and again, this is speculation. I think especially coming off of what happened this week, you're going to have media outlets trying to take and run with some of these stories and try to fit this into a certain, you know, avenue, because everyone wants to be able to finish the story or be the first one to complete the story. And the truth is, I can't sit here and tell you I know exactly what happened, but it sounds like there is a history of like a honeymoon phase and then falling out with Johnny Morton. And he either has moved on ahead of those problems, or the problems happen and then he's either let go or has moved on. And it sounds like, I don't know if it's gotten to that point, like with Denver, with the Jets. I don't think Dan Campbell would allow internal quarrels to like bleed through the organization, let's say. But I think, I will say this. It seemed to me in watching the sideline interactions, like Jared Goff and the coaching staff, and although Johnny Mo sits up in the booth, I didn't feel like there was a connection there between quarterback and play caller. You know, like there was with Ben Johnson, and now like there seems to be with Dan Campbell. I mean, you saw Dan Campbell on the sidelines. He'd call a play, and then he'd be pumped before the play was even run, because he just knew that his personnel and the trust he has in his players, this is going to work out. And if you go back and you watch the Jameson Williams touchdown, that's exactly what happens. He calls in the play, and he's like, F yeah, he scored a touchdown. Like, I know that my kid scored a touchdown on that play. Guess what? He scored a touchdown. The OC position was never fixed, according to Jay Cruz. And I mean, I think they wanted Johnny Morton to work. I think they had a lot of faith in the fact that he was here before and had familiarity with Goff. You know, But there, your second comment maybe leads into why it didn't work. Ragnow being gone, retiring, Zeitler was let go. I mean, those were big pieces that, because the offensive line didn't have that continuity, it affected the rest of the operation. So it's a big one. So here's another fun topic for today. One of the things when I was watching the game on Sunday and Jake Bates kicking off had kicked 2 kickoffs out of bounds during the game. And both of those kickoffs that went off out of bounds came off of kicks on short field. So Washington commits a penalty. It moves the Lions kickoff up. And Jake Bates then, on both of those kicks, kicks them out of bounds. And in the moment, I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? Like, how twice? How? Because at a normal kickoff, in those senses, that ball's then moved to the 40-yard line. So you've basically given the other team another 10 yards, and starting them off at the 40, that's a good field position. So, but if you noticed in those 2 kicks, the ball was not moved to the 40-yard line. So there's this kind of weird little known kickoff rule. And an article written by the Pride of Detroit website says how Detroit Lions exploited the little known kickoff rule twice. So rather than me sitting there and getting upset, and I remembered even after the win, I'm thinking like, oh man, everything was great. Like offense was great. Defense played well. But what was going on with the special teams? But then after this article's come out and I've gotten a little bit more information, it seems like the Detroit Lions are just smarter than everybody else. Because if you paid specific attention, this actually worked out in their favor. So I want to read this to you here, okay? And if you know what I'm talking about, hit me up in the chat. If you knew this already, please let me know. Maybe I just need to expand my true football knowledge, but with the fact that they've changed the kickoff now several times over the last several seasons, it's hard to keep up. So this comes from the Pride of Detroit website, and we're talking about the Lions exploiting one of the little-known kickoff rules. Remember, the Washington Commanders were penalized, moving the Lions up on these kickoffs, and Jake Bates kicked 2 of them out of bounds, which now we know were on purpose. So before the recent, this comes from the Pride of Detroit website. I'm going to read this from you. Actually, let me see if I can pull this up. Let's get a little smart with this here. Let me see if I can share. Okay, I'm going to do this. There we go. Here we go. Bam. Maybe. Oh, there we go. There we go. Learning the system. Okay, so let me blow this up for you guys. I want you to read along with me. If you haven't seen this yet, this is good learning for all of us. So again, we're talking about the Lions kickoff and exploiting this kickoff rule. So here's what it says. Before the recent change to the new dynamic kickoff, any kick out of bounds would just be placed at the 40-yard line or where it went out of bounds if it was further downfield. But that is no longer the case. Under new kickoff rules, when a kickoff goes out of bounds, it is now placed 25 yards from where the ball was kicked. In most cases, the ball is kicked from the team's own 35-yard line. This is a normal kick, meaning the ball is placed on the returning team's 40-yard line like normal. But because the Lions were pushed up 15 yards because of the penalties, further downfield due to the penalty, the ball by rule gets placed at the 25-yard line. So rather than kicking the ball to the Commanders, and the Lions have not done super great at defending kickoffs, they decided rather than give you the ball at the 30 or allow them to have a kickoff return that gets a pass the 30, we're just going to concede the ball to you at the 25, which I think is super smart. And that's only because of the penalties that Washington committed before the kickoffs. I didn't know that. I really didn't know that. I was pissed off that Jake Bates would hit 2 kicks out of bounds like that. There's no way on short kicks. And now I know why. And now we all know why. So shout out to the Pride of Detroit website. Again, I have no affiliation with those guys. They put out fantastic Lions content daily. So I definitely recommend to go check them out. But it was a great kind of catch up on that topic. I thought it was weird. I got upset watching it. I was like, what in the world is going on? There we go. But that explains it. So I thought that was kind of weird, but very interesting. And again, shows the Lions coaching staff being smarter than most other coaching staffs in this league. Did you guys know that? Let me know in the chat. I had no idea. Robert says, love the stream, brother. I stopped gaming just to join in Johnny Gaz streams. Keep it going. Hey, dude. Thank you, man. Never stop gaming, though, bro. I appreciate you coming to join stream. Always. Thank you. But keep gaming. Before I did this, I've always loved the Lions. Don't get me wrong. I'm a lifetime Lions fan. But before I made this into a thing, content, that's what I did. I was a game streamer. I played Call of Duty, Warzone, just about every night for a couple years there. It was a lot of fun, but just didn't pay the bills. And I'm not a good gamer, so that didn't help. But I appreciate you, Robert. Thank you for always joining. Thanks, man. Millicent says, I had seen this kickoff done in another game earlier this season, but I can't remember which game. Yet another testament to MCDC's football knowledge. Exactly. The Big Brain Lions. That's right. JMO back up to MCDC for now. That's right. Jay Cruz has got a dip. Peace out, brother. Appreciate you joining, coming involved. You the man. Stay safe out there. Have a good time, brother. Appreciate you. Now, before we leave the Week 10 game and we talk about next week, Week 11, we got to look at the defensive side of the football. Again, I thought the defense played well. You know, gave up a couple scores, but really, again, garbage time at the end of the game. With the Lions offense playing so well, the tempo, the rhythm there, the defense was able to establish themselves. I thought they played faster. The pass rush got after it. Safeties crashed downhill. The fact you're still without Kirby Joseph, although that's tough, I think it didn't end up being a problem for the Lions at all. They're still recovering on the depth in their defensive backfield. But Branch was great. 1.5 sacks. He was all over the field, was kind of unleashed against the Commanders, and you love to see that. He is truly a defensive weapon. And in a day where Aiden Hutchinson did not get to the quarterback, I'm not saying he wasn't effective. Brian Branch was that guy. Washington being forced into obvious passing downs. Again, effect of the offense being so good, but it allows the defense to play better, play differently. So I got to ask the question. I think I already know the answer to this, but who is your defensive MVP for the Lions in Week 10? Robert, you're a streamer too? Sweet, man. Hey, you can plug here. Robert, go ahead. Put in the chat. Throw your tag in the chat. I appreciate you even saying that or thinking that it wasn't okay. But because you were involved, because I like you, brother, throw your tag in the chat. Let us know where we can find you in your game stream. I appreciate you, man. No worries. Theo says Campbell, Jack Campbell, man, he might be... I mean, when you're playing on a defense with Aiden Hutchinson, it's hard to talk overall MVP, but Jack Campbell is turning himself into one of the best linebackers in the NFL. He's a tackling machine. He's in control of this defense now. He sets people in place. Linebackers, no matter what's been going on, have not been a problem for the Lions. Like you, solid linebacking core with him, with Anzo, with Barnes. I mean, they've been really good this year. What up, Joe? How you doing? What's up, Johnny Gaz? How you doing, Joe? But yeah, defensive MVP for Week 10. Who was it? Was it Jack Campbell? Got a vote there. Yeah, Campbell stopped at the goal line, Millicent. That was awesome. Nice stick, nice stand up there from JC. That was cool. That was super cool. Great tackle. But sticking with the defense and on the defensive line, articles came out today, yesterday, in regards to snap counts and usage. And when focusing in on the defense, one of the things that's popped up is the usage or snaps for Tyleik Williams, the rookie, who only had 8 snaps against Washington. And he wasn't designated with any sort of injury. I haven't heard anything or read anything from the Lions to indicate he's dealing with anything or has personal issues or anything that would stop him from action. So the question is, why isn't first-round pick Tyleik Williams seeing the field more? Because it seemed like prior to Aleem McNeil's reinsertion in the lineup, he was more heavily involved, and that could be part of it, right? Is because with Aleem McNeil back, he doesn't need to play as much snaps, so that's part of it. But on the other side, is there a production issue? Because you certainly saw guys like Roy Lopez, Tyler Lacey get more snaps than the rookie. So is there an effectiveness issue? Is it an injury issue that we're not being made aware of? Or, again, is it going back to the fact that he's a rookie, that you have experienced players ahead of him, and he's just going to have to wait his turn? So is there an issue here? I'll let, in chat, let me know. Are we concerned at all with the fact that rookie Tyleik Williams and his snap counts continue to go down and down? Now, one thing I can relate it to in talking about Aleem McNeil is that was sort of his usage in his first year. They'd use him a little bit here and there, and then snap count would pull back a little bit. And they'd use him a little bit more, and his snap count would pull back a little bit. So, is it conditioning? Is it rotation? Is it just the way the defense is being used? I think we all would love to see more of Tyleik Williams in a sense of him being involved, but I think it's important to remember, one, he's a rookie. Two, he's a defensive tackle. He was never a sack machine or a tackle for loss machine. So his role really should be eating up run defense, clearing space for other guys on the defensive line. But we would really like to see more snaps from Tyleik Williams. So let me know what you think. Robert, we're on the same wavelength, man. Joe says, yes, Jack Campbell definitely has it, but BB right there. I agree with you. Some people think he's playing bad. I don't necessarily think so. They're letting him learn, I believe, says Robert about Tyleik Williams. That might be it. I mean, they had to kind of throw him into the fire with no Aleem McNeil, and I thought he did okay. I thought he was pretty good, actually, the first couple of weeks. But you're putting him in a tough spot. And Milson says the key word there is rookie. He has to clean up some things that are in the spot, just like MCDC has said. Jody says, I heard he was benched. I saw that article too. Saw the answer, rookie growing pains was given. Zero concern about Williams' snap count, according to Milson. He sure is great at battling them balls down, batting the balls down. Joe, you're right. He does. He can get a hand up. I mean, that's effective defensive tackle work right there. Joe says, changes are good. Everyone will find their spot. Yeah, I mean, I think, if you listen to the coaches, and they're usually pretty open and honest with things, like Theo mentions, as far as the growing pains, I think that's a little bit to be expected. Defensive tackle is a tough position to transition to in the NFL. The offensive lineman you're playing in college versus the pros is leaps and bounds different, and adjusting is tough. So we'll see. We're going to give this time. I think the Lions have enough talent up front to where he doesn't have to be the main point. And that's going to allow him time to grow back into that role or whatever role they find for him. But as a first-round draft pick, guys, let's not just put that aside or dismiss it. And I think that's still the thing. I mean, we're sitting in a good spot. It's not a problem, but the Lions drafted him in the first round to make an impact. And so when we're looking at the effectiveness of Brad Holmes' drafts and the things that could take the Lions over the edge if they're not going to make these mid-season trades and acquisitions or off-season splash moves, and that's okay. That's fine. But then these picks have to pan out. So we're going to keep our eyes on Tyleik Williams. Sorry, I just need to use the gong one time. We got to have one gong per live. One gong per live, On the other end of this, the Lions are returning a player to their practice squad. They ended up re-signing edge Ahmed Hassanin, who they had drafted in the 6th round this year. On an injury designation, they ended up releasing him and now re-signing. And because he is an international player, it actually doesn't count against their final number. So it's just kind of like a free practice squad roster spot. But for a guy that I think the Lions had some excitement behind, I think we all talked about in the preseason the possibility of what he could be. Again, a rookie, so it's important to understand, one, he's been injured. It's going to take time for him to get, kind of back into that shape. He's a really hard worker, so I don't think that's going to take any time at all. But then past that, what will it take to get him onto the active roster? Can he earn a spot there? And is there room for him to get any playing time this season? I mean, that's kind of the bigger question things. But it's good to see him back. It's good to see, another edge being added into the system. It's going to we're going to have to see long-term if this is something that ends up giving back to the Lions at all. But again, it's just nice to see him brought back. So that was a story this week for sure. But let's start to move forward now. Now that we know, obviously, Lions are at 6-3. NFC North took a little bit of a turn this last week. The Packers did lose to the Eagles 10-7 on Monday Night Football. What a weird defensive game that was. Those two teams, man, they're tough to figure out, but they're both hanging in there. But ultimately, with the Green Bay loss, it puts Detroit back on top of the division at 6-3. Chicago right behind them, also at 6-3. But we know the Lions have the Week 2 victory over the Bears, so that tiebreaker is owned by the Lions in that case. Bears continuing to find ways to win. I don't know how. They beat the Giants on a comeback victory. Caleb Williams had a game, but he's scrambling for his life. But again, Chicago hanging in there. Detroit with the lead. Green Bay now 5-3-1. They're third in the division. I think they've now lost 3 games in a row at home. It's pretty incredible. And then Minnesota at 4-5. So Lions take control of the NFC North again. They control their own destiny, but they have a huge matchup coming up in Week 11. Ultimately, the Lions improved their vital conference tiebreakers. They moved Vegas odds in their favor. They're kind of reestablishing momentum within the division. So it wasn't a must-win in Week 10, but for the Lions to get back on track, back on pace for where I think we all thought they would be, that was the victory they had to get. So now at 6-3, we move forward and we head towards a monstrous matchup in Week 11 as the Lions will travel to Philadelphia to face the defending champion Eagles in a Sunday night matchup, a spotlight matchup for this season. Should be a great game. Can't wait. But a quick question for you guys in chat before we go into that matchup a little bit. Are the Lions clearly now the NFC North favorites? Are they clearly now back in the driver's seat for the NFC North? Let me know in the chat. Theo says, I'm also thinking the longer season effect could be tempered by a rest with Aleem coming back. Yeah, I mean, that's a big one. The Aleem reinsertion and the fact that I think they're playing with Aleem snap counts, trying to figure out what works best for him in the defense. I think it just moves Tyleek back, Millicent says, one can always tell when MCDC has had enough of the same question. Listen for when he says, now look, or now listen, before answering the question. It's hilarious. Yeah, he's a no mess around kind of guy. What about the St. Brown punch in both halves? Hey, Joe, first of all, how you doing, Joe? We didn't hit on that. Video came out and is surfaced now of St. Brown throwing the initial punch. It was light. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm never excusing that. St. Brown should know better. But it then lends itself to what happened there. Here's the thing. The NFL could relook at that. So let's hope it just stays where it is. But let's keep our eyes on the ground. I haven't seen anything else come out of it, but you're right. The Bears are the worst 6-3 team in the NFL. Robert, they may be the worst 6-3 team in the history of the NFL. I don't see it with them yet. I like what Ben Johnson's doing. I mean, clearly some things are working there. But I don't think it seems like Caleb Williams just scrambles to scramble. And it worked against the Giants, but I don't know if that kind of thing's going to work against better teams. So there's still a lot to be said, but I think there's a future there. I think they're 1 year away from being true contenders. Extra practice player for Hassanin. He's protected. Absolutely. Jack Campbell, defensive MVP, according to Joel. How you doing, Joel? Appreciate you, man. The tell will be against the Eagles. I foresee a big plus. I was glad to see Demo getting more involved, according to Joe. Yeah, absolutely. He was kind of fading. His effectiveness was fading. To see him reinserted and work off of Sonic, it was really good. Robert says, I'm Johnny Gaz Sports, off topic. You think Matt Stafford is a legit MVP candidate? Because I don't. My bad if it's... No, not a problem, Robert. I love it. And at the end of these lives, which we're getting there, it's kind of a no-holds-barred. Any question you want to ask, man, I'm good with. Dude, I think Matt Stafford is the NFL MVP right now. At his age and the type of football he's playing, they've had guys in and out of the lineup. I mean, dude, he's slinging it, man. I'm not even a huge Matthew Stafford guy. I mean, I didn't want to see him go when he left Detroit, but it all worked out. But my point is, yeah, I think he is playing MVP-type football right now. But I really think your MVP, truthfully, is Jonathan Taylor with the Colts. If you watched the overtime, he was dominant. I mean, he was the game at that point. Now, he's had some fumble issues here too, so there's reasons to believe he won't be the MVP. And again, running backs don't typically win that award, but I think he should be your front runner. Joe says, we will be once we beat the Eagles. All right. Milton says, yes, the Lions have the most complete team in the division. When all three phases are clicking, Lions are hard to beat. Absolutely. The kickoff rule after a penalty was explained on TV first time. I must have missed it, 911. I didn't hear them say that during the broadcast. But I also don't necessarily always focus on what the broadcasters are saying. Sometimes I even have the game muted in some senses. So I'm glad they said it because I was sitting there kind of steaming about it. Theo says, Lions trajectory will be defined better by results of Eagles game. Yeah, that's how big this matchup is. I mean, it will sort of set the tone for who takes charge in the NFC overall. It doesn't make or break it because I think in either sense, both teams will have plenty of games left in front of them to make a move. But tiebreaker and what it could mean for that number one seed, yeah, it's going to be huge. It's a huge swing game. We'll have to retake a look at the odds after the Eagles beat the Packers on Monday night, but the Lions had some respect as far as Vegas is concerned. I think the keys to beating Philadelphia, protecting Jared Goff. I mean, to me, that's number one. The offensive line, the protection of the quarterback, Jared Goff, is the key to going into Philly and thinking you're going to beat this Eagles team. They have to protect Jared Goff. How do they do that? Use of the tempo, quick passes, trying to exhaust their front. Offensive line has to be good, to do that. Again, the running game's got to be solid, but it's all about protecting Jared Goff. Attack the linebackers with Gibbs, Laporta, Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown over the middle. Attack that linebacking crew as much as possible. Obviously, on the other side of the football, win the scramble drills between Hurts as much as possible. Try to keep the quarterback contained. They've done a good job with that against guys like Caleb Williams, and when they played Patrick Mahomes, I mean, they've really honed in the quarterback and not allowed the scramble drill to become the thing. So they have to do that again against Jalen Hurts. And then I think offense, got to continue this momentum. They got to finish drives. Touchdowns, not field goals. That's always the goal for the Lions. So I'm never concerned with that, but that's what will win you the game in Philadelphia. So what do you guys think? What is the key to victory in Philadelphia in Week 11 as we look kind of an early projection for Sunday night football? What is the key for the Lions on Sunday night against the Eagles? That's a big one. Milton says, as a retired teacher, I know those things happen. One kid shoves another kid. He doesn't get caught. The other kid retaliates later and gets caught. Both kids are, of course, wrong. Yeah. Guilt by association, right? I learned that very well as a kid. It happens. Sequence of events, cause a reaction, I think the biggest thing is, does the NFL take action? Did the initial thing that Amon-Ra... It wasn't even that, though. It was really brought on by the Washington Commanders and that interaction they had with Jared Goff, right? You got the guy to jump off sides. He then gets in Goff's face. It kind of led to a sequence of events. Wasn't good. Joe says, I think we are going to be more battle tested this year and more prepared for the playoffs compared to last year. This is a Super Bowl type kind of winning season we are having. You're right, Joe. I mean, there has to be trial and tribulations. I said at the beginning of the season, I thought the Lions would be 12-5 with the 5 losses. Yes, it's worse record than last year, but I thought they would be a better 12-5 team than their 15-2 the previous year because they would be more battle tested. So I agree with your point, big time. Rob says stopping their run game for the Eagles in Week 11. Absolutely. Holding down Saquon Barkley, containing Jalen Hurts. I think the Lions can do that. The Lions' rush defense has been historically good the last several seasons, even this year. So I think they can hold that up. Zuper back in action. I was told that the Packers also lost their center for the season in Week 10 as well. So never wish injury on anybody, but that's going to hurt the Packers for future matchups. Millicent says, solid O-line performance, and we're good to go. Yeah, I agree with you, Millicent. That's the key, not only to any victory, but specifically against the Eagles and that defensive line, the pressure they can put on with their front four. It's got to be about the protection, this offensive line. Joe says, I thought I was already subscribed to you. I just now subscribed. No worries, man. Thanks for either resubscribing or just subscribing. It'd be so nice to have you either way. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure to slap the like button. It's the best free way to help out the channel. If you subscribe, you won't miss any content here from Johnny Gaz Sports. I'm available on all of your socials. If you search for @Johnny Gaz Sports, you will find fun, reliable, and consistent Detroit Lions content. Joe, I appreciate you coming involved. Theo says, O-line and spy on Hurts while limiting Barkley. Yep. Using Brian Branch in that capacity as much as possible. Lots of touchdowns, Jody. That's right. That'll win the game. More points. If we score more points than the Eagles, we're probably going to win the game. That's my expert opinion. Milson says, NFL won't open that can of worms. That would be a precedent if they go back after the fact to address what was already called or not called during the game. Well, you're right, Millicent. That would be crazy, but what we've seen, especially this season, is the NFL is not afraid to do those crazy things, to manipulate games, change outcomes. I mean, that's a bigger topic I don't love to get into, but things happen. What up, Danny? Got to get pressure, protect, and run play. Yep. Yeah, pressure's going to be tough. I think they will work for pressure, but with a quarterback like Hurts, you got to be careful. Pressure, but contain more than anything else. Joe confirms, yes, they lost their center as far as Green Bay. So that's going to hurt. That really is going to hurt them. So we hit on a lot today, guys, and I appreciate everyone for being involved. We talked about the Lions' victory in Washington, 44-22. Lions at 6-3, now at the top of the division, the NFC North. Talked about Motor City Dan Campbell taking over the play calling for the Lions and what the future of the offense looks like, what Johnny Moe's future will be with the Lions. And we've been talking about the Week 11 matchup coming up with the Philadelphia Eagles and how big that will be, what that will mean for the Lions' future for this season. I mean, the offense just looked better, and I expect, they're going to run into better teams than they did in the Commanders. What up, Paul? How you doing, buddy? And this will be the biggest test for what truly does Dan Campbell calling plays mean for the Lions offense. And against a very good defense and a Super Bowl winning type team, what does that look like? We know it's fast, decisive, physical. It's violent, it's fearless, it's intentional. But can it be all those things against a very quality opponent in the Eagles? We're going to find out in Week 11. It's going to be awesome. So we've got a couple minutes left, guys. Fire away with any questions you have in chat, any fun stories, any fun anecdotes, anything you want to lay out for us here as we get heading towards Week 11. Lions at Eagles. Eagles. E-A-G-L. Wait, just spell Eagles. I can't spell. Barkley has not looked like the same player as last season. Yeah, Millicent, that's true. He still scares the poop out of me because the potential's always there. But I think that's a couple things. I think it's that teams are extremely geared up to stop the running game for the Eagles. The other thing is that Saquon Barkley has had more rushing attempts than any running back I think, in the history of the NFL over the last 2 or 3 seasons. So I think that's starting to catch up to him a little bit. That's a lot of weight to put on one player, but I agree with you, man. Joe says, I sure wish Frank Ragnow would come out of retirement for the playoffs. Yeah, man, we could use that. Robert says, love this stream. Going to get you a sub dog soon. I appreciate you, Robert. Anybody you can tell family and friends about, share the stream, promote it on Facebook. I appreciate that so much. Trying to grow this as much as we can. It's just so much fun to be involved and have good, like-minded, positive people in chat with us, just like you, Robert. The weather in D.C. Sunday night is going to be perfect football weather. In D.C. or in Philly, you mean? Hopefully in Philly. Because they could use, I don't want to play in the conditions. I want to see that ball hawk Kirby back in action, says Theo. Me too. Lions need to get him back. I mean, Brian Branch has been playing out of his mind, but I think having that safety net with Kirby, the ball hawk, absolutely. I mean, a turnover machine, and I think the Lions could use that against Philadelphia. Causing a turnover, too, would certainly help them out in that game. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for sharing the stream. Let's go. Let's go, baby. How you doing? It says Stefan's. I'm going to say it. Is it Stephen Fenwick? Stephen Fenwick? Am I just overthinking this, Stephen? Lions are covering. Book it. Let's book it. I'll book it. You want to make that bet? I'll make that bet. I also think the Lions are covering. Milton says, oops, I meant Philly. No, I'm with you. That's okay. All good. Yeah, good weather in Philly would be okay for Sunday night. That'd be good. My biggest concern, says Joe, is Jalen Carter. Yeah, that's why the offensive line has got to be on point. Philly can get after it, and they can get after it with 4 rushers. They don't have to bring exotic blitzes like Minnesota or Tampa Bay. You know, they come after you with their 4 rushers, and the Lions are going to have to be up for the task. Yeah, we talked a lot. Weather in Philly going to be fine. So last question of the day from me. What are the Lions? What's the one thing they still need to improve? What's the one thing the Lions still need to improve for them to win a Super Bowl? For them to continue this magical season, what is the one thing? Let me know in chat. That one thing that the Lions still need to improve. I wish I was a faster, more efficient typer, because that would come out a lot easier. I also need to find a mod. So if anybody is interested in becoming a moderator of the channel at Johnny Gaz Sports, and really it's mainly just to help me out here on Tuesday nights to put in these chat questions and kind of continue to hype up other people in the chat, respond to folks, say hello, make sure people are liking, subscribing, doing all the good things. If anybody is interested, send me a DM. I may have a few people interested, so I don't want to promise anything, but if you are interested, reach out. I could use the help here on Tuesday nights, but it's so much fun. It really is. But let me know, what's that one thing the Lions still need to improve? If the Lions are going to win a Super Bowl this year, hit me up in the chat. Special teams. Robert, we're on the same page today, brother. Special teams, that's mine. Special teams, block field goals, missed extra points, and the kickoff return game. The Lions have got to get better at stopping kickoff returns. They cannot score a touchdown to open the game, and on the ensuing kickoff, flip the field back the other way. That gave the Washington Commanders 3 points. The Commanders are not a good football team, and they should not have been able to do that to the Lions. So I'm with you. Special teams, I agree with you, Milson. Couldn't type it fast enough. Couldn't think it out fast enough. Joe says the biggest thing they need to improve is their offensive line cohesion. I think that's going to come in time. Now, hopefully that Coyote Wasika is in that lineup. He's the left guard for this season moving forward. Can this new 5 continue to work like they did in Washington? Jeff says, I'm open. Jeff, if you are interested, I'd love to have you. Again, just shoot me a quick message in my DMs on Facebook or through YouTube, whatever's easiest for you. We can have a conversation about it. Phil says, amen. Kickoff return. That's it, Jeff. That's it. Paul says, our defensive tackles have barely been mid the last 2 games. We need more pressure up the middle. Talked about Tyleik Williams and sort of his lack of snaps and effectiveness. I kind of have expected more from Aleem McNeil. I'm not saying he's been bad, but with how effective he was against Tampa Bay in his first game return, I really thought the sky's the limit. So I agree with you, Paul. We got to get more of those defensive tackles. It's a good point. So let's wrap it up right there. Guys, I appreciate everybody. Duke Crew in the house. What up, Phil? Oh, yeah. Shout out to Lions Talk Live and Dan. If you haven't already, checked him out as well. YouTube, Lions Talk Live. Again, I have no association with the channel. He's just a good guy. Great information. He's live every single morning, I believe, between 7 and 7:30. Don't quote me on that exactly. But go check out Dan and Lions Talk Live. The Duke Crew over there, fantastic people. Great folks to talk Lions with. But a great day here on Johnny Gaz Live. I appreciate you all. Robert, thank you for being so involved today. Millicent, Attila, Phil, Paul, Jeff, Joe, everybody. I mean, if I'm Danny, Stefan, Robert, again, all over the chat today. Danny Clute, Jody was involved. Can't stop out with Jody. Joe Padilla, Rob Jackson. Thank you guys all for being involved in the chat. I hope you guys also have a great night. But here's the deal, guys. In closing, when Dan Campbell calls plays, the Lions look like a contender, okay? They didn't just beat Washington. They made a statement. And with the Eagles coming up, we're about to learn even more. It's going to be a great Week 11. Lions, Eagles. Again, be on the lookout for content the rest of the week. Tomorrow, I will have a top 3 plays from the Lions-Commanders game coming out in a short tomorrow morning. Be on the lookout for that. Then we'll have our game preview coming out Friday this week. Lions going to Philadelphia. Should be a great Sunday Night Football matchup. So again, Friday morning, that full preview will be coming out. Make sure to go check out at Johnny Gaz Sports on YouTube, Facebook, any of your social medias. Type in at Johnny Gaz Sports. You will find my stupid face. And fun Lions content. So make sure to go subscribe. There is a membership option available here through YouTube and on Facebook for subscribers. I give a ton of fun content just for those subscribers and members. Very personal content, just me and you, highlights, reactions, live game play-by-plays, things you cannot get just through the channel or on the free Facebook page. But there is always fun free content on any one of those socials. So definitely check it out. I appreciate you guys. Everybody have a blessed night. Have a great rest of your week. What do we got tomorrow? Wednesday, Thursday, night football we have coming up Friday. We got so many good things. Got the holiday season, Turkey Day approaching. Do something good for you, for the folks around you. Just be nice. Be kind. It doesn't cost a penny to be kind to people. And I know everyone in chat already does that. So let's keep that up, guys. Let's move that forward. And more than anything else, I say this at the end of every video, and I really mean this. I mean this more than anything else. Take care of yourself, your mental health. It's more important than anything else. Not one other single thing is more important than what's going on up here. Everything else falls in line because of that. And I want to make sure you come back and see me on future videos. Take care of yourself. I love you. Go Lions.